So let us understand the if-else entity itself. Okay, so if, else if and else, right? So the entire thing would constitute one entity, right? So what we discussed yesterday was, let's say if condition was executed and if the statement under it was true, it would execute and then it would, jump out of the statement, right? So basically, if, else if and else, these three form a part of the part of the entity itself, right? So the entire thing is one entity. So if this is true, then it would just come out of this, and then your next set of commands would be executed, right? So I hope this part is clear. Now we'll come across two cases. One is nested and one is sequential, right? So nested is basically you will have condition within a condition, right? So you would have if the condition, then this, and then within that you would have another condition, right? Right. Similarly, you can have a condition again inside this. So this is called nesting, where basically what nesting means is that you have something within something, right? Okay. Okay, so this is called nesting. And there's something called as sequentials. So in sequential, you will come across these types of code snippets also, where you will see this type. Right, so it will be like multiple if statements. Right. Now, what you need to understand is the difference between these. So okay, let's go ahead. Let's say the code would check this if condition, and if this was true, then this entire if is between this, right? So the entire thing would be executed, right? It would go inside this, then it would check for this condition, and then let's say if this was false, then it would come out of this, and then since there's nothing, then it would come out of the loop. Sorry, not loop, the if condition, right? Whereas we'll come across something called as sequences. Now, since I've told you that if else is one entity, so in this case, this entire thing is one entity, right? But if you come across something like this, right, with the same indentation, okay, this means this entire thing is one entity. Then it's this thing, then it's this thing, right? So here, first this condition would be checked, and accordingly it would execute or not execute, and then again it would come here, irrespective of the condition being true or not, right? Because this is a different entity itself, right? These two won't be related, right? Because if else forms one entity. So here it's just an if. So this part is over. So this if didn't have its corresponding else and else if statements, right? So this entire thing would be one entity. Similarly, this entire thing would be one entity. Similarly, this entire thing would be another entity, right? Which are independent of each other, right? Unlike this, you have this nested thing, where basically you have statements within statements, and execution of this would depend on whether if this is satisfied or not. So let us see the same with the R example. Okay, so yeah, I'll just okay. So let's come to nesting. So what is it saying? If x is 23, then it would first execute. Yes, this will be true because x is 23. So then this print will be printed. Then within the same, you have this if within the condition of if itself, right? Then this would run. It would check if y is 45. Yes, y is 45. So even this would get printed, right? Now, this entire thing is one entity, right? If else. This entire thing is one entity, and this if and this else corresponds to the outer entity, right? I hope this part is clear. So then it would run this, and since y is 45, it would print this, right? And it would not execute this else, and now it will come out, and this else wouldn't be executed because this if statement has already been executed and it was found to be true, right? So like we expected, so this print statement is coming, x is true, and similarly the inner print statement is also getting printed, right? So let's just change values slightly. Let's say x is 22, right? Now what would happen? Now when I run this, it's directly what it will check if x is 23, then it's seen that x is not 23, so this is false. Then the control would directly get transferred here, right? So if else, this is one entity, then it would just print this, right? There's no else if and else if within this if else entity, the outer entity, right? So even these statements would basically not even be executed. Similarly, let's assign back x to 23, and let's say y is 40. Okay, and yeah, now what is happening? So x is 23, so it's going inside this. It will print x is true because that's a statement within this condition. Then if it's checking y is 45, which is not, so it will print. So it won't enter here. In fact, what it will do is it will just enter the else and print this. That's what it's doing. And then once this if else execution is done, then since this if was executed, this else won't be executed, right? I hope this difference is clear. The sequential part that we discussed about, let's talk about that now. So let's assign x to 23 and y to 40, and let us run this entire thing, right? So you see that all the three statements has run and there's no output that has been generated, right? Because neither of the conditions have been met, right? Because it's an AND operator, so which means both conditions have to be met, and in none of the cases they are satisfied. So let's just assign y to 45. Let us run this now. Okay, so for the first part, it's getting printed, both are true, right? Because that is true. What is happening? Second and third won't be printed. Okay, let me change this to OR. I think this would be a better picture. X equal to 23, sorry. Yeah. And y equal to... Okay, now let us understand the output now. Yeah, so the first one is printed, yes, but here the second one is also printed, right? Because it's an OR condition, and x equal to 23 is satisfied. So here we don't have the thing, right? Like if else, like once this is true, then it would move out. No, because these are two separate entities, right? So if and else form one entity, here this becomes a okay, this becomes a separate entity itself, right? So this would get executed irrespective of this, this would get executed irrespective of this. Okay.